Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today to the message that I would like to share with you. Um, the word I have today is, what is your Egypt? But before I get into this message, I'm going to be brief today. But before I get into the message, let's get covered with a word of prayer. Amen. And if you're able to pray along with me, please do so. Amen. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And please forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. What is your Egypt? As many of you know, the children of Israel were the chosen people of God. They ended up being in bondage, enslaved by the Egyptians. In Exodus, the Lord finally delivered them out of Egypt, but it wasn't enough for them because they still carried Egypt in their mind and in their hearts, and because of that, they couldn't understand and they didn't have faith to believe that they were being brought to a land of flowing with milk and honey. They couldn't see it, and because they couldn't see it, they lost faith. They became disobedient. They started murmuring and complaining to Moses and Aaron, and because of their disobedience and their lack of faith, and because they just did not believe, God cursed them to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. For 40 years, until that generation of disbelievers and murmurers and complainers and those who were just not faithful and being disobedient, till those people died off. 40 years. They still carried Egypt, their place of bondage and slavery. They still carried Egypt in their hearts, so much so to where some of them would have preferred to have just stayed in Egypt and died in Egypt a slave than to not know where Moses and Aaron were leading them. God promised them a land flowing with milk and honey, but because they couldn't see it right in front of them, they chose instead to murmur and complain and disobey the instruction of God, until finally God got fed up and his wrath came down upon them. So my question is, what is your Egypt? What are those things that are enslaving you and keeping you in bondage, that are keeping you from receiving your promised land, receiving the wonderful and beautiful gifts that God has promised you? What is keeping you in bondage? What is your Egypt? Is your Egypt fear? Is your Egypt lack of self-confidence? Is your Egypt negativity and drama? Is your Egypt lack of faith? What is your Egypt? What is your Egypt laziness, procrastination. What is your Egypt? What are those things that are keeping you from receiving the blessings of God? Do a self-examination. I know that I have to do one every now and then. Do a self-examination and figure out, what is your Egypt? What are you allowing to control you? What are you allowing to enslave you, to keep you in bondage, so that you're not getting the promises of God. You're not getting that career that you want. You're not getting that home that you want. You're living in a state of poverty. You're not getting that education that you want. What is your Egypt? That is the message that the Lord has placed on my heart today. I pray that this was a blessing to you, and that we can just reflect and try to figure out what we need to get rid of, what things in our mind and in our heart that we're clinging on to, that we need to get rid of, so that we can receive the blessings and promises of God. Amen. Amen. May you all have a blessed day, and I thank you again for tuning in. Much love.